Shalom, precious people of God. Welcome to this episode of Times and Seasons with Dr. Bako. Today I have the honor and the pleasure and the privilege to interview Dr. Bako on his show, his program, Times and Seasons. Dr. Bako, thank you for the honor of being the one to interview you today. Welcome.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, viewers, for giving us the privilege of always having you interact with us. And thank you for the privilege of your time. We don't take it for granted. And again, thank you for agreeing to interview me today.
We've heard Bako, Dr. Bako, Pastor Bako, and some people, maybe, let me say this, maybe it's a secret, maybe you already know, but some people think this Dr. Bako is weird. He's a weird guy. He's a weird man. What do you think people think you're weird? Maybe you could tell us a little bit of yourself.
That's an interesting one. I didn't know. Well, some people think I'm weird. Okay, I'm just an ordinary human being like everybody else. And being human means I am actually man, the expression of God, the image of God, the function of God, the personality of God in humus, clay. That's what human being means. So I'm a human being, and I am somebody who was born in a village that is not even on the map.
You always say that. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yes, that's actually to let you know that if God sees God can use somebody like me, then you have no excuse, because probably you come from a city, you come from a prominent place that people know about. My own village is not even on the map, but God has had mercy on me to have picked me up from those humble beginnings. By God's grace, I am now somebody who God has used in many nations of the world, not less than 100. Having said that, I'm somebody who happens to be, like I said, married to this beautiful woman that is interviewing me today. So I'm a family man, married with 5 biological children, and many adopted, and 1 biological grandchild. And I don't know what else you want to know about me.
Well,
I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ as my Savior. I, also believe in empowering people. That's the reason why it doesn't matter your religious background, your class, your race. I really believe in empowering people, because I believe life is not worth anything except it is used to bring other lives to the place of relevance that God ordained for them to actually bring to bear on the earth. Because I believe everything you see on earth has a manufacturer, and the manufacturer had a purpose for it. So if even human beings make things and they have a purpose for it, how much more God himself? I don't know if that answers your question.
Interesting. At least we know you're humus, right?
Yes, I'm God's expression in humus.
In humus.
So man in humus, human.
Yeah, so heaven meets earth in man.
Yes.
Good. Okay. And I heard you talk about reproductive gate. And we want to look at the word gate. So can you please define gate for us? We know you talk a lot about gates. So can you define the word gate?
Well, so maybe that's one of the reasons why you said some people think I'm weird, because I talk about things like gates. Well, in case you've heard about gates and you've been asking some basic questions, what is this whole thing about gates and all that? When I talk about gates, basically what I'm saying is the fact that, gates has to do with ports of access used for the purpose of both entry and exit. For you to enter your house, you have to go through a gate. To come out of your house, you have to go through a gate. For me to come on earth, I had to come through a gate. For anyone to exit the earth, he has to go through a gate. Must I go through the gates of death before my time? Isaiah chapter 38, verses 10 to 12. This was what Hezekiah was saying to God. So the gates of death, the gates of life, gates of a city, gates. So you have any port of access. That's why you have seaports, you have airports, you have, so in terms of reproductive gates, those are the gates through which reproduction occurs. For example, I came through the reproductive gates of my father as, a spermatozoa that went into the reproductive gates of my mother, which was, the opening. Then now one of them happened to have been the egg, and then the womb and all that. And, I came out through the, opening, reproductive opening into the earth. And that was the reason why we ended up ensuring that, each person understands this whole thing about gates. And for me, my mother currently is over 100. I am blessed to have that. So, talking of gates, there is a family gate, because I guess that's what you want me to talk about, the fact that there are gates of the society, gates through which, God expresses his kingdom in the society. And the first gate through which every human being came on earth is the family gate. And then apart from your family gate, you happen to now have another gate, that is the belief system. And then you have other gates that have to do with other areas of life, like governance, the gate of the economy. Then you have 8 gates, basically, so that I don't take all the time.
Interesting. Thank you very much. And so, talking about the family gate, what exactly in your give us your own definition of family. Because I know most of us know family as a group of people who are connected by blood. They may live together, they may live apart from one another, but they are connected to each other by blood. What would be your own definition for family?
When you talk of family, you're talking of household servants, from the Latin word famulus, which means a household servant. So a group of people that are ready to serve each other to accomplish a purpose, which becomes like their vision. So they have common history, common destiny. That's why you can have a spiritual family, you can have an academic family, you can have also a professional family. That's why you have different kinds of families. So then, of course, if you want to talk about marital family, then it will be a group of persons having common history in terms of marriage, and then common destiny in terms of the purpose of that marriage. And when you say destiny, you're talking of the destination, where you are really now referring to that which is the vision, the end purpose, the end goal, the picture, the perfect picture of the future that you see. That's why normally for a family, whether linked by blood, which will be commonality of, history and ancestry, or any other thing that links them, then they must have a destiny which has to do with the vision. What do they see? So I normally talk about family vision. Do you have a vision statement for your family? Do you have a mission statement for your family, what you are out to accomplish to become that which you see? And then do you have family values, core values? And then, of course, at the end of the day, do you have a strategy to finally accomplish that?
Yeah, I really want us to dwell a little bit on this. We know that it takes 2 individuals to start a family, to coming from different backgrounds, different perspectives. How can we link this to the issue of gates?
Okay, you just talked of the aspect of it takes two individuals. Those individuals will be male and female, according to Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 to 28. And God said, let us make man in our image.
Very
man.
true. We need to define
yes.
the
So let us
individuals.
make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them. So man was them. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, over our cattle, over all the earth, over every living thing that moves upon the face of the earth. Verse 27 says, so God created man in his own image, male and female created he them. So male and female created he them. And God blessed them, verse 28, and said, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. All right, so at the end of the day, it means if you're talking of two individuals, it's not just any individuals, it has to be male and female. That's God's own definition of, the people that will now start a family in marriage. It has to be a male and a female, not male and male, not female and female. Having said that, let me move on now. So in terms of gates, each one of them came through the reproductive gates of their father and their mother. Now, in the case of the father, according to Psalm 127, verse 4, it says, like arrows in the hands of a mighty man are sons born in one's youth. Happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them. So you are coming from your father's quiver. That's one of the reproductive gates that we talk about in terms of the family gate. And I've already talked about the female gates. Reproductive gates will have to do with the reproductive organs, which includes, all that you know about concerning the female and the male. I hope that summarizes that aspect. So then coming from two different backgrounds, having come from the environment of the home and the upbringing, because you're a sum total of your exposure, your experiences, your, training and development. And you end up with that environment affecting you. So you end up becoming a product of that environment. So having come from two different environments, it will require God to help you to synchronize, synthesize, and be able to actually help each other, more or less becoming like the rough edges that will help smoothing each other out.
Okay, so when it comes to the vision, the mission, the core values, what would you say to these individuals who either have come to make up a family or are hoping to make a family in terms of gates? Because I know that a human being is spirit, soul, and body, and all of those parts of a human being will affect the way they communicate, they interact with their environment or with other people.
Well, first of all, thank you for, being with us on this particular Times and Seasons episode on family. Now, when you are talking about this whole thing about vision statement, mission statement, core values, strategy, what I am talking about is the fact that if you say vision, it is having to do with the verb to be. So let me say vision and mission have to do with verbs.
Okay.
Verbs. Vision, verb to be. Mission, verb to do.
Okay.
So if you're talking of as an individual, there must be a personal mission statement that is derived from my personal vision statement. Now, when I come with my personal vision statement and my personal mission statement that is derived from the personal vision, I must realize that there is somebody that I'm now joining in terms of two lives being joined that also has a personal vision statement and personal mission statement. There is a possibility of a conflict there. But if I realize that there is a God who gives us his own vision for us and his mission for us, then that becomes the point of convergence for the two. So then the vision statement, what that family should become, the purpose for that marriage, why God brought us together, what we ought to become as a family, should be the focus, because then we will do everything to become that which God saw as that particular destiny. And I know you definitely have an idea. If you don't even know, God can show you if you start asking him today. You say, but we are already married. It's not too late. God is able to help you recover and restore whatever grounds had been lost. And then the aspect of the mission statement. What do we have to do to become?
Yeah.
Because verb to be is you become, then you can do. For example, mangoes produce mango fruit. You know, if it came to orange trees will produce oranges. So you have to become first before you produce. You know, so vision statement before mission statement. Then from the mission statement, you say, what will be the guidelines? What are the guiding principles? So that's what you call core values. There will be other values, but the core values that people can identify you with. And then the aspect of strategy. How do we finally get there in terms of the roadmap, in terms of some of the specific, styles and all the steps and all that. So that's basically what we talk about when we say we're talking of vision statement for the family, mission statement for the family, core values, and finally strategy. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so how long would it take to
develop
a family vision or mission statement? Would it be something that we can do in 1 week, or we can decide, let's fast and pray in 3 days we should be able to get a family vision and mission?
Well, it depends on the individuals and their relationship with God. Maybe some of you out there might even be getting a little discouraged. You have heard me talk about family vision statement, mission statement, core values, and you've really sought God and you thought it should have been done in 1 day and it's not been done 3 days, 1 week. Well, in our own case, it took us about 3 years to finally come with that. Because for those of you that are in the corporate world, business and all that, sometimes you go away for maybe 2-3 weekends, and you go and you bring in a lot of things, and by the time you finally funnel all the ideas, you come up with just a concise statement of a clear picture of the future that you see. Now, in the same vein, much more for the family, because everybody comes from a family, but not everybody comes from your business entity. So family should be the first that should have a vision statement, and then mission statement and core values. So yes, it might take you more than a year, 2 years, 3 years. Some, because they have already gotten used to hearing clearly what God is saying, and they know how to finally, for lack of a better word, concretize and, consolidate, and finally, funnel it down to a very, very fine summary of everything that they stand for, that they see themselves becoming. They might take a shorter time. If this is your first time of developing a vision statement, they might take you a longer time.
At least people can start somewhere.
Yes. I mean, clearly I hope that's clear enough for everybody. I mean, for you out there, that you just say, okay, what is it that is the goal for our marriage? What is it that God saw to bring us together? What does he want us to accomplish? What is it that we ought to become to be the example that we're supposed to be, the clear picture of the destiny or destination for your marriage, for your family, for your home? That is what the vision statement is about, what you are becoming. Then the mission statement, what you need to do to become that. And then the core values, the guiding principles. And finally, the steps and the styles and all the processes and procedures would be included in your strategy.
A family is made up of more than two people. You may have children involved. And so in developing family mission and vision, do we include the children? What would they have to offer anyway, especially if they're little?
Well, what is there is actually, there is 7 pillars of a family. The king of the family, then the aspect of the throne of the family, then the foundations for that throne, then the aspect of the scepter, then the aspect of the elders of the family, we call it family council, and then you have the aspect of the messengers of the family, and finally the aspect of the subjects or the people that you influence, the sphere of influence as a family. So those 7 basic pillars. Now, the number 5 pillar is elders. Now, in terms of council of elders, if it is beyond the nuclear family, then you have the family head, who is head of all the heads of the families. But in a nuclear family setting, like you're saying, usually what you would do if you have several children, you might have firstborn child with the 2 parents, or firstborn, male child, firstborn female child combined with the parents to form the family council so that decisions are taken, and the child would normally have the discussion with all the other children, the siblings, to have inputs into whatever is being done, especially for the family vision statement. So that's why, for our own case, it took about 3 years for us to come up with that. You can't say the child is too small. At the end of the day, every child actually came on a mission from God. And there are some things that sometimes you'll be amazed what is coming out of that child. Because, let me say here up front, there is no baby spirit.
Yeah, we're all...
Every human being is a spirit, and he is the image of God. At that level, you are already a developed spirit, for lack of a better word, grown spirit that needs now the soul to be developed, which has to do with your heart, mind, emotions, will, intellect, conscience, disposition, worldview, mentality, or mindset, perception, understanding, relational skills. That's where there is a need to grow in wisdom and in stature in terms of physical. But the spirit is already like the image of God in reality. So no baby spirit. That's why you would realize that sometimes babies are able to distinguish between those who are of God and those who are not of God. Sometimes even more than grown-ups.
Okay, I've heard you talk about architecture of the brain and some architecture of the family. So can you briefly tell us, because this is just a teaser, we'll be coming with another episode that will discuss into more in depth the family. But for now, what is the architecture of families in different parts of the world? And then, what is God's design for the family?
That's interesting. When you talk about architecture, you're talking of design. You're talking of, designing buildings, other things, and how to construct them and build them, all of that. So if you say architecture of family,
Design.
so what is the original design? How do we ensure it's constructed and built according to the pattern?
Yes.
Abraham was looking for a city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. So I have introduced 3 concepts right there for architecture. You're talking of design, you're talking about the kinds of foundations then that will be needed to support the structure that will be constructed and built. So it means there will be the design. Sometimes the culture affects the kinds of design. The exposure, the mindset, the perception, all the things that we're talking about concerning the soul. So if you say from the various, cultures, backgrounds, various continents, the Americas, North America is different from Central America. You know, Central America is different from South America. You know, the Arctic region is different from even Antarctica, though they are both, you know, the extreme end of the earth with a lot of snow and all that. Because your environment impacts on the way you build your family and the way you actually conduct your affairs, even as a family. Then if you came to Europe, Middle East, you know, Asia, then, you know, the Pacific Basin, and then Africa, you know, the way we conduct our family affairs differ. So it will be the design. It will have to do with the kinds of foundations we lay, or that were laid by us when we were starting a family. For example, in Africa, there are some basic things concerning ensuring that you go and do your homework. These days, we call it you do your due diligence. You know, because they will say, go and find out concerning his family background. Were there people there? Was there any history of this type of attitude, that type of, you know, behavior, habits, and all of that? They even say, do they have any history of madness? Yes. And all of that. So, you know, those are the things that would actually go into the design, the construction, the foundations, and then finally the building of the family. Because sometimes I come with my background, you come with your background, and sometimes if we are not watchful, it's not necessarily what the Word of God says. It is what my culture says that I'm now trying to superimpose on you. So, you know, architecture, we can interrogate it further, but this is just a teaser, like you said.
Well, we're coming back with another episode of The Family Gate. So be on the watch out. We'll bring episode 2 of Family Gate, and we will go into a deeper discussion of the family. So soon it's time for us to end this episode. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again in the next episode. God bless you. Thank you, Dr. Abu, for opening up your hearts to us and telling us a little bit about your weird self. We've enjoyed we've enjoyed knowing that you come from an obscure village that is not on the map, but this is a giant in the spirit, and we bless the Lord for your life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you, viewers, again for the privilege of your time, your attention, and being with us on each one of these episodes. Looking forward to the next time with you.
God bless you. See you next episode.